Hey, this is Steve Halleck with TickTalking.com. I have another one of my favorite all-time watches here for review today. Before I start, please hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and definitely check out www.ticktalking.com. That's my sort of home on the web, and I have all sorts of the coolest watches in the world. Some are available on there, some I've just written up or videoed, and I also have a whole history of blog posts from years in the industry, so check it out. But here today we have the Richard Mille RM002, and this is basically the watch that launched what is now pretty much the coolest brand in the world. So let's check it out. The RM1 was a tourbillon, and it was all very, very, very similar to the RM2. It was there were just a few, I think it was 20 examples produced. If I got that wrong, you can correct me in the comments, but I think it was something like that. And then they went to the 2, which just had some minor tweaks. So this is really the first main watch from Richard Mille. Now, the movement was made by Renaud and Papy, who make all the complicated movements for Audemars Piguet, and are probably the top movement constructors for complicated movements in the world. And this was really the first use of this now iconic case. So the watch is killer, and also, of course, Richard Mille has been famous for their insane pricing, which at the time, I think this watch was in like the high hundreds of, like 100,000, maybe it was 160 or 180, which was like insane. And now the retail on it, I think, is like $350 or something like that. So it's just totally wild. But when you look on the secondary market, these have actually become sort of a bargain. If you think of how expensive an RM11 or something like that is now, which doesn't even have like a Renaud and Papy movement. I mean, the mechanisms of the 2 and the 4 are way beyond the 11 in the quality. And you get a tourbillon and all of these sort of very high-tech things that put Richard Mille on the map for not a whole lot more than you pay for an RM11. So I think these are a great bargain. And personally, this was the watch that got me into very high-end watches. In 2002 or so, I saw my first one of these. I had no idea that a $100,000 watch even existed, and if it did, I thought it would be a diamond piece of junk. And I saw one of these, and I put it on my wrist, and I realized that super cool stuff actually existed, and that there were things that cost that much that I would love to wear every day, and that I had to have one, and eventually bought one not a lot longer, which I wish I still had. But here we go. Let's dig into this. So obviously, the first thing you notice here is the tourbillon. But probably the most unique thing about this watch is this selector that's done through this push button. So this crown does not pull out. It's got a push button, and all of this was supposedly inspired by race cars. So you have this button selector where right now it's in neutral, which is like the normal state for a crown. If you want to wind it, you push it in, and it clicks over to W, which is wind. So let's wind it up a little bit. Here you have a, let's really get into it there. There, we got it started. And up here you've got a power reserve, which you can see is 78 hours of power reserve, so pretty good power reserve. And here you've got a torque meter, which shows basically the kind of the quality of power coming out of the mainspring. So I'm not going to fully wind it up, but so you've wound it here. Now if you press this again, it goes to H, which is hands. And now you can set the watch. So you do all that without pulling on the crown at all. It's all done through this selector. So let's put it back down here at neutral. And let me show you some of the other cool functions. So one of the neat things about the Richard Mille construction is that it's sort of built up on 3 dimensions. And you can see you have your main plate here, which in this watch is a coated, I believe it's brass or some sort of, it might be titanium, but I think it's brass. This is a V1. They later went to the V2, which is a carbon nanofiber base plate. I actually like these V1s a lot. It's a little, the carbon nanofiber has kind of grain and it gets a little bit busy, whereas this gray, the kind of uniform gray cover makes the watch a little bit cleaner looking. They're both cool. Obviously the carbon is cool too, so I don't really think that one is necessarily better than the other. But I definitely don't think that the 2 is necessarily definitely better than the 1. But you see here, so you've got that. Then there's another layer that the numerals are actually on. So you can see how they sort of float above there. And then above that are the dots, the hour marker dots, that are actually on the ring that's around the dial. And then, of course, you've got this curved crystal on top of the whole thing. So because of those different layers, you really have a three-dimensional architecture to these movements. And, of course, you've got these wheels that are built up, and the torque meter and power reserve are here above the mainspring. So you've got that three-dimensionality as well. Let's take a look at the back. There's not a lot to see on the back. You've got the wheels of the winding train there, and then just this really, really cool back plate that's been carved out, and it's super cool looking and very high quality. But there's not, you can't see a lot of the mechanism because obviously it's mostly up here. But now here's the best part of Richard Mille. When you put it on the wrist, there is no watch really ever that is more comfortable on the wrist than a Richard Mille. And that's mainly due to the shape of the case and how it's curved. So it just fits the wrist perfectly, and it's a perfect size, and it just looks super cool on any wrist. And the screws, and it just, now this has become a super iconic case. When these first came out, they were wild. But the sizing is it's just perfect. It's just really great for like a sport watch. You can't do much better. And this is the original strap that they came on, this sort of leather covered strap. And that was all that was available for a long time. Now they have really cool rubber straps, and they've got Velcro straps, and they have all sorts of really cool straps. So if this one were mine, I'd probably put something else on it. But anyway, this is an awesome watch. It's really special for me. Every time I put one on, I remember that sort of first time I saw one of these and realized that this whole world of crazy expensive watches exists, and it's not just for jerks. That there are actually just really, really cool things that are really awesome to have. And that's really where this watch is special. It's just it's really nice to have. It's nice to wear. It works. It looks cool. You can wear it with anything, and it's just a really neat piece. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you get a chance to see one of these in person, make sure you ask to put it on your wrist and try it on, and check out just how nice it feels and looks. All right, thanks.